Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Source of Food, and if you're happening on this channel for the first time, this is where I sit and I reminisce about the good old days. Back in the 60s, early 60s when I was born, touching into the 70s a little bit, and I just sit and I talk about my childhood memories, all kind of memories, anything that comes to mind, looking back as an adult now, about those days, right? The things we used to do, the activities we used to be a part of, the games we used to play, um, you know, the stuff my grandparents used to do, um, stuff as it relates to school days, you know, all kind of stuff, man. You're right. So if those are some of the stuff that interest you, you're in the right place. All right. So today I want to talk about um, an event that used to take place from time to time back in the village, man. Yes. Now, let me back up a little bit. So, as a kid growing up in Jamaica, um, rural Jamaica, 60s time period, um, in the village where I'm from, a lot of homes, a lot of people I can remember, neighbors, my home, neighbors, the wider community, would have animals at home. So people would have chickens, they would have rabbits, they would have goats, they would have pigs. Some people who could afford it would have, um, you know, um, cows. Yeah, the occasional sheep would back then. But for the most part, the most the more common animals that would be in my village would be the pigs, the goats, the chickens, and so forth. I'm talking about animals that are used for food. I'm not talking about, this is not about the cats and the dogs at this time, right? So most people would raise these animals for food purposes. And one of those animals that was common for food would be the pig, right? And when it comes around time to butcher a pig, man, that was kind of a big deal, a special occasion, because it would be a time when there would be an abundance of meat, so to speak, especially if it was your pig or a neighbor's pig, right? So I can remember, man, in my home or maybe a neighbor's home when it came around to the time to butcher a pig. In those days, many times when a neighbor would butcher an animal, most of it, would be kept for home use. Occasionally, some would be sold, to the wider community, but for the most part, um, it would be um, it would be kept for the purpose of domestic use. And of course, because we never had refrigeration back then, people would have to find ways to preserve the meat, to cure it, whether by salting or smoking, or have it in some kind of brine, which still happens nowadays, is was the norm. But back to the issue of butchering a pig, man, a big hog. So yeah, so I can remember as a kid, man, when it came around to the day, this neighbor or my home, would have a pig for butchering, and the day came, right? And then it would be my grandfather or some other butcher in the community, someone who could handle um, a butchering tool, specifically a knife or whatever tool was used. I don't want to get too graphic here because some people don't want to know where their food comes from. I mean, in North America here, right, we consume so much meat. but we never give a thought about how our meat is prepared or produced. You know, you have these huge farms with pigs and cows and chicken. Have you ever stopped to ask how these animals are slaughtered? Anyway, that's beside the point. I just want to get that in the back of your mind as you watch this video. But in my situation, as a kid, you know, we were privy to watch the you know the event of 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 slaughtering or butchering or killing an animal for food. Yeah, so the day would come around, man, where the it was time to butcher the pig, and um, whether it was my grandfather or some other neighbor in the next door who was butchering their animal. You know, it was an exciting time, and I would stand around and watch the whole process of the butchering, the slaughtering, and um, and then the process behind that. When it comes to butchering a pig, it could be a bit of an unnerving experience because the pigs seem to realize with a sixth sense or some intuition, if animals have these abilities, to figure out that this is going to be my last day. You know, and so the pig would be tethered and secured by whatever method, and you know, with rope or whatever, and the squealing would start, and you could hear, if you're a mile away, you could hear this hog squealing, right? Because it's crying time. It's crying time again. You know the life is gonna leave you. Yes, and the squealing would start, and then the animal would, I mean, the butcher would do his thing, and you know, slaughter it. So as kids, man, part of the whole um, slaughtering process, after the you know, after the throat or wherever it was cut, and the animal is dead, um, part of the whole process of that, we would have had, as kids, there would be a big fire there with boiling water, a whole kerosene tin or whatever. That's what we used to call that container. It was a cooking oil container, what we used to call it, the kerosene tin. It would be there full of hot boiling water. So when the hog was dead now, hot water would be poured over the body of the pig. And then, you know, as kids, we would have, you know, along with my parents or the neighbors or whatever, would have knives, sharp knives or machete, sharp machete. Now, what the hot water would do, it would loosen up the hair and soften up the skin, just like maybe that, like how you put shaving cream on your face before you shave it. But the hot water, you know, yeah. And so we would use the knife or the machete and scrape off the if it was a bird, we would say we would defeather the bird. In this case, we are dehairing the pig. We would scrape off the skin. It's a black, for example, it's a black pig, and when we are done with it, this pig is white, no hair, white as chalk, right? So that was a whole part of the process of you know, it would be lying on the ground, and we would do one side and then pour the hot water over it, and we would do the other side and scrape off the entire body, and then the butcher or whoever, they would string it up on the tree by the back legs, you know, and then they would gut it and you know, take out the you know, not to, I'm just being graphic and real, remove the intestines and, you know, all the other bodily organs. And yeah, if you ever seen a picture of you know, hanging meat in a butcher shop, you can Google it if you've never seen that. And yeah, and the meat would then be cut up, different parts, and you know, however it was sectioned up, and yeah, ready to eat. Yeah, so I just thought I'd share that because just because of the whole process, the process of getting the pig ready for slaughter, which was, like I said, could be an unnerving experience because of the squealing of the pig, because the pig seemed to realize that it's gonna die, and we had to secure it with rope and whatever, kneel down on it, and or however whatever however we got to however way we got to do it. And then the whole process of butchering it, the whole process of scraping it, stringing it up, helping my parents to string it up on somewhere to to cut it in two and gut it and get out the intestines and body organs and to cut it up and chop it up into different and section it out in different parts. Yeah, those were real childhood memories. Those are in my are stamped into my memory, what's the right word? Indelibly stamped into my memory. Yeah, and yeah, so those were some real childhood experiences for me. Um, Growing up in the village back in those days in the 60s and 70s, and I'm sure it still happens in Jamaica today, because Jamaicans, if you know, we love goat meat. Curry goat is a staple there. In Jamaica we love that, and I'm sure goats are killed the same way, right? So yeah, but it's food for thought for you. I thought I'd share this because a lot of people never don't we don't think nowadays of how our meat, or maybe we choose not to think about where our food comes from and how it was prepared, whether the process was humane or not. For me back then, um, the issue of whether it was humane or not was a non-issue. The bigger issue was survival and finding, having food to eat. Okay, but I'm sure the animal rights people, or you know what, this is all about food. This is not about talking about animal rights or whatever right now. This is all about food and survival back then. Okay, and I thought I'd just share my childhood experiences as it relates to how we butchered how I helped my parents to butcher the animals, and specifically the pig back then, and the whole process, and you know all of that. What was it like for you? Have you ever been a part of that? Have you ever watched an animal being slaughtered in your village? Have you ever had to be a part of the process? Were you ever the person who had to do the slaughtering of the animal? What was it like? Tell me about it. You know, how did you find the process? Anyway, I just thought I'd share this with you today. If you like the video, if it brought back memories for you, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. And if you like the channel and the videos that I do, don't forget to subscribe, all right? So until we talk again, this is Memory Lane. My name is Source of Food. And until the next video, take care.